for coming out to our pre-trip webinar. So it's time to get started. Our agenda today, first of all, I'm going to introduce your host, Martine, who's going to look after you while you're in Costa Rica. And Martine and I are going to cover the most important part of this webinar, which is about what you need to know for the trip and your arrival into San Jose. And we're going to cover a few of the highlights of what you can expect along the way, just so Martine can give you some pointers and manage your expectations a bit. And then we'll answer any questions that you may have. You can put questions in at any time. If something pops into your mind, you'll find a chat box or a Q&A box either at the top or the bottom of your screen, depending on what browser you're using. So put your questions in at any time, and we will answer them latest at the Q&A section. So before my voice disappears, let me introduce Martine.
I'll be your sidekick today. Hi,
Please.
everyone. So, thank you so much for coming online and just getting prepared before this adventure of ours starts. So, my name is Martine. You can go with Martine French, Martina if you want to practice your Spanish, or of course, standard Martine. I've been basically in Costa Rica for over 20 years, and I've been leading all the trips for Costa Rica for Wheel and Anchor. And I really look forward to introducing you to this magical just country, which is really special. If you've never been to Costa Rica, not only are you going to go to the best country in Central America, in my opinion, but you'll be going to the points of Costa Rica that not everyone sees. So, and the best, in my opinion. So, but I'm biased, obviously. I love it.
Amazing. Thanks, Martine. So let's jump right in the interest of time, and talk about what you need to know for this trip. Obviously, you need a passport, but the beauty of traveling in this part of the world is that's all you need. Um, as long as your passport is up to date and valid for 6 months from the date, 6 months after the date that you enter or your flight ticket is for, you're good to go. We were talking in the last webinar, Martine, about some of the questions that you might get asked on entry.
That's right. So generally, they just want to know where you're going. So you can just let them know about the Hilton. You've got that in your information for the transfer, the Hilton DoubleTree Carriere. And then that's all they really need to know. Then they may ask you, for example, do you have a ticket that's showing you that you're leaving the country, that you're not going to exceed, which is now, much longer time than before. So you just have to have that ticket sort of on hand. So just have it ready in your, passport folder kind of thing. And other than that, they may, but they never generally ask that, especially to Canadians, like, about your income and things like that. So you don't really have to worry about that. And, as long as your passport is valid, you know where you're going and you know when you're leaving, that's all they really need to know.
Exactly. I always suggest make a copy of your passport. I see a few names that are familiar. You've been on these webinars before, so you've heard me say this 100 times, but um, always having a copy of any important documents on your phone, or a printed copy for that matter, just in case.
Mhm.
Not to mention that if it's on your phone, honestly, at my passport picture, I've used more times changing money or getting a SIM card, or all kinds of different places, so I don't have to, if I don't have to carry my physical passport all the time. But the thing that most people want to know, Martine, is what do you bring for a trip like this? Because it's more than just bathing suit and flip flops, right?
Yes. Please bring more than a bathing suit and flip-flops. So let's talk about the fact that we're doing three different chapters. Like we're doing something that's really different in all these chapters. And that also means the weather is different. So a lot of people think I'm going to the tropics. It's going to be hot the whole time. Well, actually, on your arrival in January, it's actually quite cool in San Jose and windy. So you definitely want to be coming with layers. I always say dress as an onion. So you have layers. You can take those off and you can add them back on. So you want to have different layers. You want to make sure it's quick drying clothing. So nothing like jeans or thick cottons. You want to have like one of those puffy jackets, Yes, you do. Even as Canadians up in the mountains, when we do our early morning bird tour, Quetzal tour in Savegre, it can get pretty cold. I'm talking about anywhere from 9 to 12 degrees. It can go as low. So you want to have a hat. You want to have mittens. You want to have, and so basically what you'll be wearing to get to the airport from Canada, you'll want to be wearing up in the mountains. But during the day, it's nice and warm. You'll actually be sweating. You definitely want to bring just a variety of lightweight clothing. So shorts, you want to bring tank tops, you want to bring a couple layers, and you want to bring things like shoes that have good grip. It's very important. Your toes must be covered and they have to have good grip. That's it. They don't have to have ankle support. We're not doing any heavy backpacking. You want to make sure that your shoes can either get wet and dry fast, or if you want to go with a waterproof shoe, that's fine, but they don't dry fast. Just know that. You want to have an extra pair of shoes, like a pair of flip-flops. Be careful if you're not used to walking with flip-flops. People will trip with those easily. So you may want to do something like Crocs or something like that around the property. We're not going to be dressing up. Most places is casual, so you want to just bring things that you're going to be comfortable in that you can mix and match and wear more than once. But our lodges all offer laundry servicing. Okay. So you can do that. Make sure you bring a bathing suit, a quick dry towel. You want to have basically you want to have sunscreen because sunscreen is very expensive here in Costa Rica. You want to have your medication, especially when you're traveling. You should have them in your labeled bottles in case, at customs, but generally you don't get bothered. But you want to have all your medication that you need. You want to have your products, that you need to try to think bio, try and think eco. We're going to be going into eco lodges, so biodegradable. But every hotel has shampoo, has conditioner. Not every hotel will offer a hair dryer in the bedroom, but most hotels do. And if they don't, they offer them at the front desk that you can ask for one, and then you'll be responsible for it for the duration of your stay. We have safes in the rooms, these kinds of things. You just basically want to keep it to minimal because we only have 18 kilograms, basically 40 pounds of luggage that's allowed on your flight back in the small domestic flight. So think 40 pounds as your max, and you'll get back into that later. You're going to say something.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that's an important point, right? That one domestic flight, they have this 18 kilogram limit. So, ordinarily with international flights, it's 23. So in this one, it's less. And also a small, like a one relatively small carry-on. So
Yeah.
you don't need more than that in Costa Rica, to be perfectly honest with you. So um, I just wanted to ask you though, Martine, about mosquitoes and
Yeah.
mosquito repellent.
Mhm.
Because yeah, you were saying on our previous webinar that it's mosquitoes aren't too much of an issue.
Now, look at me right now. I'm in right now in full on jungle. I don't know if you can see any jungle around me, but we actually have more mosquitoes in Canada than we do here in Costa Rica. And thanks to the many lizards, bats, birds that are taking care of them. But because I was saying you want to keep things eco, you basically want to bring something that's more natural, versus a DEET. You may want to bring some citronella. You also just want to, at night prevent with long flowy pants, maybe a long shirt. But again, you won't be bothered by insects in general. Even though we have 10,000 species of insects on the OSA, a lot of them are not going to bother you. So you're very lucky. Also, I'm going to come back to something very important is some kind of lightweight poncho or an umbrella. Uh,
Yeah.
I did mention that already, but that's important because, could be rain. Could be that the time of year that you're coming, it's the dry season starting. The driest month is March. The wettest is October, just to give you an idea. So you're coming right at the cusp where it's getting really drier, but there is chance of rainfall. And if you're someone who doesn't want to get wet, especially up in the mountains, you may want to just have a light poncho bring with you
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
backpack
Yeah.
with. Mhm.
It's a very good point. And the other thing that it struck me, electrical adapters, it's same as at home, right? So you don't
Yeah,
need an
same as at
adapter,
home,
right?
you don't need
The
adapters.
voltage is the same, everything's the same. So that's, you
Easy.
know, easy for
Easy, but bring your recharging cords because they're not necessarily easy to find here.
no, yeah. If you don't, let's put it, yeah, that's a very good point. On this
Yeah.
trip, if you don't have it with you, forget about getting it.
Walmart's not around the corner.
No, it's not going to happen. Um, yeah, talk to us a bit about money. I'll explain about the Wise card in a second, but you raised a very good point in the last webinar, and I want you to highlight that about U.S. dollars versus local currency, colones, and so on.
Yeah, so we have the colones, which is our local currency, but you don't really need it. It's actually something the only reason you would want colones is if you're planning on going to a lot of little markets and you want to give a better value for your US dollar because they don't give you a good exchange rate on it. So generally, I tell Canadians just bring at least 200 to 250 US dollars in small notes, nothing over 20. So go one, five, 10 and 20s. And then you want to have that on you. Every hotel will accept your credit card, and we'll get into that in a second. You just want to make sure you always choose the local currency. We'll talk about that again, probably. Gordon will bring that up. So basically, just bring a little bit of cash, but everything in your trip is really included, including gratuities that are part of our package. So you just want to bring about that amount of money, and that's all you'll need, really. So you can add on, Gordon.
Yep. No, that's basically it.
Mhm.
As far as cards, as Martine said, credit cards are accepted everywhere. Um, I am a big advocate only because I use it myself. I don't get anything from it. I should get something from it, but Wise Card is honestly, it's a traveler's dream. Literally, it's the only thing I use outside of Canada. I take all these fancy bank cards and I stick them somewhere, because you get the best exchange rates with Wise. You can transfer from one currency to the other or keep a balance in Canadian dollars. It's easy to upload funds, and you can withdraw up to $300 without fees. And Yeah, there's a whole bunch of benefits to using a Wise card. And I know that I've suggested this to many of our members, and they all have them now, and they're all they all swear by it. So I know the Canadian banks aren't too happy with me because I've been pushing Wise, but it's a good way to go. And you have enough time. You could still get a physical card if you literally ordered one today, or you could just use the digital one. Honestly, I have it programmed into my phone, so I've got it right there on the phone. I can just tap the phone. I don't even need the physical card. In fact, I seldom ever pull it out. Um, so as Martine was saying, the other thing is that you typically use local currency for tipping, but tipping is included, or it's included in the sense that you've prepaid tipping through us for all pretty much all the aspects of this trip. And so Martine will look after that for all the guides and drivers and all the people along the way that would ordinarily be tipped. We take care of that for you. So the only ones that you might need is if you're going out for dinner in San Jose. If you arrive early or on the day and you're dining out on your own, you typically would round up, right? The system is very much like in Europe. Although, Martine, I think, isn't it? They are kind of expecting 10% these days. Is that
That's a correct amount to consider. If you're going to go eat out, you just, and look, sometimes you can even ask, is the tip included? Because some restaurants do include it, but generally it's not. And you would just add 10%. And usually I'm going to recommend you pay it in cash, because it doesn't mean that the waiter is going to receive that, if you're
precisely?
right. So I always usually give a little cash to the actual
and
server.
and and hence the reason for having cash,
Yeah.
not whether colones or US dollars in small denominations, as Martine has just said. So just to give you the heads up on that. And then for any other services where we're not there
Yeah.
to do the tipping, like the arrival transfer, if you have a lovely driver and they really look after you, you want to give them a couple of bucks, by all means please do that, but otherwise you're pretty much covered.
We got you.
Yeah. So talking about mobile communications, and we talked about this at length in the last webinar.
Mhm.
Mm, excuse me. So I mean, it's a good idea to bring your phone.
Mhm.
But as Martine, and I'm going to paraphrase you, Martine, from the last webinar,
Mhm.
Wi-Fi is available in all the lodges. And when you're out, walking through the beautiful jungle in search of all the incredible birds and all the rest of it, you don't really want to be looking at your phone. If you need to be online, though, then do you can either use your roaming plan from home, which is the most expensive option. You can get a physical SIM card when you arrive in San Jose, or you can get an eSIM, a digital SIM card, by pre ordering one online. So those are the options.
Mhm.
People ask me, oh, what eSIM do you use? Oh God, that's a dog's breakfast. There's a million of them. I've tried various providers, and there's pros and cons, and plus, and some work better than others, but the big names generally work pretty well. Um, but you don't really need it. However, we do, as many of you know who traveled with us on our trips before, use Telegram as a communication tool. Um, Particularly helpful at the beginning of the trip. So if you want to get a direct access to Martine, because there's been a snowstorm in Montreal and your flight, is you're connecting, you missed the connecting flight or whatever it happens to be, you want to get a hold of Martine to let her know that there's a problem with your arrival so that we can rearrange the pickup at the airport. Telegram is the way to do that. The instructions for setting that up have been provided to you, as well as Martine's username on there. So you can, if you haven't done that already, then set up Telegram, send her a note and say, hey, this is me. I'm on your Costa Rica 2 trip. And then Martine will send a lovely smiley face back. So that's what to note on there. And Martine, you just actually send it back to you have to choose
Oh,
everyone.
sorry.
All good. No, all good, all good. Martine is putting her handle, her username into the chat box in case you didn't see it. You can make a note of it there. So I think that's all we need to say about communications. You're going to be with Martine and her team and her colleagues most of the time anyway. So on a trip like this, unlike some of our other trips, like our liveaways and sojourns, where there's a lot of free time roaming around and so on, where Telegram comes in particularly handy. In this case, you're a pretty tight knit group for the whole time, so it's not as critical during the trip, but certainly beforehand, it's handy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will communicate with the group beforehand with a note, a message to all of you. And then you can always privately message me if you have any questions.
Exactly, exactly. Um, Health protocols. This is perfect. I got my mask right here because, yeah, I've been a little under the weather since I flew in. So, if you are feeling, if you do have any symptoms, sneezing, coughing, a frog in your throat, I'm testament to that today. Please wear a mask. And I'll give you a case in point. I was hosting our group in India in November, and one or two people were like, oh, coughing here and there, and I kind of thought, is everything going? No, 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 whatever. And next thing you know, half the boat had caught something. Whether it was them or not, we don't know. But they were a little lax on the wearing of the mask, and listen, luckily nothing drastic came out of it. There was no COVID or anything, but
You know what I say,
we
Gordon? I say you don't choose a cold, but you choose to pass it on.
That's exactly it. That's exactly right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. So that's our number one sort of rule is please don a mask. Number two is if you injure yourself in any minor way, um, particularly in the tropics, is what I find, right? It's so easy to stub your toe or get a scrape when you're walking through the forest. It happens. It's no big deal. However, we like to make sure it's not a big deal. So please let Martine know and say, hey, I got this scratch here. What I find in the tropics, I live in the tropics for part of the year and down in Asia, and you can get an infection much quicker than you think. So we just say, please check with Martine, and she'll say, oh, let's have the local clinic or whoever take a look at that
Hey,
because
I'm your jungle mama. I'm your
the
jungle mama.
jungle mama. That's a
Yeah.
good way to look at it, right? We just want you to return home in the same condition or better, or maybe a pound or two more, but that's a different issue. Yeah,
I just want to add, speaking
please.
of this, if you haven't given us your insurance information already, or if you're not
Mm.
insured through us, just bring me the name of the company, your policy number, and the phone number I would need to reach them if you needed help, and I could do that for you. Just preventative. Just have it on a
Yeah.
piece of paper and handed it with your name, everything. And
Yeah.
I'll have that ready to go. If
I
you,
think we asked you that for that already, but if you haven't done that, please do provide it. We just like to have it. Again, it's Murphy's Law, right? If we have all the info, we never need it. That's right. But when we need it
yeah.
and we don't have it, then it's a bit of a pain in the neck. So, and lastly, yeah, if you're a smoker, we just ask you to refrain from smoking while, involved in any of the collective group events. And Martine will give you more advice on that in terms of the hotels and the lodges, I should say, and their own smoking policies. So good. So all of a sudden, fast forward to a little over a month from now, you're going to be flying down to San Jose. As I said before, I'm going to reiterate it again. If you have issues with your arrival flight, if the flight is, excuse me, delayed by half an hour, or whatever, we'll know that because they're obviously tracking the
Okay.
flight number. But if you didn't get onto the flight, we won't know that unless you let Martine know. So that's really important to know. And you're welcome to send a heads up and say, hey, I got a note from the airline saying we're going to be 3 hours delayed. It does happen in January. Look at the weather we've been having. Flights can be affected. So, but hopefully all will go smooth, and then you'll arrive into San Jose. And Martine, what's going to happen from there?
Yeah, so all of you have received probably information already on your transfers in and out. Just know that, when you get out that airport, there's always stress for people when you get in an airport. But when you get out and you go through that corridor, you're going to go to the right, go through that corridor. If you're taking the hotel shuttles, you're just looking for the hotel shuttle sign that's hanging from the top, and that's where you're going to pick up your shuttle. If you are taking your own private taxi, of course, always take the taxis from the airport. Don't get in what I call the pirates. They're not bad. They just might overcharge you. So just stick with the local taxis that are at the airport. Anyways, and then so that day you're arriving into about 3,000 feet above sea level. So it's a little chillier. So you may need to cover up a little bit. But the next day, the sun will come out, be nice and warm. And we're going to be heading off together as a group. I'm going to give you an overall look. So that little star, that's San Jose. You're up in the mountains at that point. From there, we're actually going to be going higher up. We're going to about 9,000 feet to Savegre Lodge. And we're going to talk about what we're going to do on the way there a little bit. Then from there, we're going down a little bit. We're going to about 4,000 feet above sea level in a place where basically the rainforest meets the cloud forest. It's where they meet. So it's a different environment. So again, chapter 1, high up into the clouds. Chapter 2, where that where the rainforest meets the cloud forest. And then chapter 3, we're going to go all the way down into the Osa Peninsula. That's where I've been living for 2 decades. It's one of the most incredible places, where National Geographic calls the most biologically intense place on Earth. So I hope you're ready for that. And so we're going to go all the way to the Osa. And then from there, at the end of the trip, you're going to be flying back into San Jose. So it gives you just an idea of our itinerary, how we're going to do it. So you're going to be really concentrating to these 3 chapters. So the first thing we're going to do, let's go into one more slide. We're going to go into San Jose, through San Jose. We're not doing a San Jose tour per se. So if you get here a little earlier than the others, I recommend you do go and visit the downtown. There's the Gold Museum, there's the Jade Museum, there's the market, there's a National Theater. There's things to do and see down there. If you want to go away from San Jose and go see, there's La Paz waterfall. There's all these different things that you can reach our team at the end, and they can give you more ideas. So together as a group, however, we're not staying in San Jose. We're moving out. We're going to start with a coffee plantation tour, which is with Cafe Baritz. So I don't know if I have coffee drinkers in the group, but I'm assuming so.
I would think so.
I would think so. And we are known for the best coffee. So you're in good hands there. So we're starting with coffee. It's going to start off our morning really well. We're going to do a fun tour there. It's actually a fun tour. And then from there, we're going to be heading to our destination, which is Savegre Lodge. We have a lunch on the way, a very typical lunch, which I'm excited for you to try. And then we're going to get to Savegre Lodge, which is just a beautiful environment. The lodge is owned by a family. You're going to learn about the history of the lodge, and you're going to meet our guide there, who's really exceptional. And so this place is known for the famous Quetzal. The Quetzal is a trogon. Do I have any birders in the group? I don't know if you're able to say I'm a birder or not. But this is where the birding will start, and really at its maximum. We have over 800 species of birds in Costa Rica. On the Osa alone, there's about 400 species. And then all around the country, as we move, you'll be able to see various. The trogon is very special. We have to get up very early to see it. So that's why you're going to want to wear that warm clothing. It's never a guarantee, but we've been very lucky. I'm going to knock on wood. I have wooden earrings, so knock on wood that we're going to see it. And so there is really what we're going to be doing is birding, and we're going to be, and there's also a birding area where you can just sit and see all these bird on feeders. It's really spectacular, the amount of birds you're going to see. And we're going to hike, and you're going to really start learning about the cloud forest at this point. The next step is that we're going to Chiripo at the base of the famous Chiripo Mountain, which is the second highest mountain in all of Central America and the highest mountain in Costa Rica. And here I like to say we're entering a spa. So not that spa services are included here, although you pamper yourself with massaging and all of these different things. We are in a spa-like environment. I like to say it's enchanting. And those images cannot do it justice when you have the sounds of the river and you have the sounds of the trees blowing in the wind and all the green and all the flowers, the tropical flowers, which in fact, next slide, I think is going to show you what we're going to be doing. We're going to go to the secret gardens. It's a secret. No, it's actually called the Secret Gardens. But anyway, but it's really a magical place with a very large botanical collection. We're going to do the tour with the owner. I know a lot about these plants as well, so we're going to talk about those and just introduce you to the the flora, the area, this incredible richness of plant life that you're going to be seeing all through your trip. From there, we're going to be doing also a tour in the Cloud Bridge Reserve. People always say, are we going to be going on a bridge? There is a bridge within this reserve, but it's quite far. So we will not be going on that bridge, but we are going to be doing some of the trails. And you're going to be meeting a scientist that actually is doing research in this park. And he's going to give you some information. Some of you may want to push yourself a little harder and do a little bit more of a hike after. Others may want to just come back to the lodge and relax. So we'll give you that option. This is an ocelot that you're seeing. They do live there. Will we see an ocelot? Oh my gosh, that'd be brilliant. Cannot be guaranteed.
And
Well,
not be guaranteed.
no, they're elusive. Let's face it, they're elusive. But you never know. Pumas like
You
to,
never know. You might be lucky, right?
yeah, pumas do have shown themselves to us, so we'll
Channel positive energy.
channel it. From there, I have to say we're going to be taking a pretty long drive. I need everyone to be on their I want to say their best behavior. That's not it. Their best game for long distance. But on the way, we're going to be seeing
You're
things.
going
So
to stop. Yeah.
yeah, it's not just like, it's going to be part of the adventure. But we're going from the mountains all the way to sea level. We're going to basically a place called Luna Lodge in Karate, which is on basically on the foot of at the foot of famous Corcovado National Park, which is known for the most incredible amount of wildlife in the country. This is the place that's home to the famous macaws, the scarlet macaws, which live, as flocks. There we have basically at least, I think it's 1,200 pairs that have been counted or more. So you will see these guys, you will hear these guys. Right now, I don't know if you can hear, there's a toucan singing behind me. We have toucans, we have just an array of birds, aracaris. We have all these incredible birds, and then the tiny ones, which I never know much about. So that's where your guide's going to come in. We'll tell you who it's going to be in a sec.
You like the big birds.
I like the big birds. I'm not a small bird kind of person, but I I'm more interested in large animals than large birds. But you can be a small bird lover. It's fair. It's fair. They're cute. Bosque del Cabo is where you're going to meet the birder, I would say, of all of the Osa Peninsula. Carlos is a renowned birder. Really, he's specialized in that. He can sing every bird song. So I would challenge anyone who is a birder to find the bird, even find out the national bird. He can do the song of the national bird, which is pretty impressive. So anyways, you'll be in meeting him. And Bosque de Cabo means forest on the point. Okay. Bosque is forest. Del Cabo is on the point. And we're going to be going to this property where it's microcosm of basically all of the Osa. It's where there's just a lot of wildlife. So I'm really excited. And you have the privilege of going in there. Not everyone can go there. It's only if you either stay there or if you know someone like us that takes you there. So I'm very excited to take you there. And then, of course, Corcovado National Park. This is not necessarily a must for everyone. It's for those who want to push themselves a little harder to hike and discover maybe access to more wildlife. If you go out to look for wildlife, you have more chances. But sometimes you're just sitting there and the wildlife comes around you. So, it's no rhyme or reason. Basically, we're not in a zoo. They're not in cages. We're the ones in cages because we're in the
Yeah,
accommodation.
exactly.
But essentially, those of you want to push your limits, I recommend you book this. But if you're not sure, you're on the fence, you're lucky because some of you have booked it, which means we have a guide that's now reserved for you. So you can jump in at a later time, and we'll talk more about that with you specifically if you want to jump in. But it's fair if you're not sure because it is a challenging hike.
It's
Okay.
a bit of a challenging hike. So
Yeah,
yeah. So thank.
mainly.
Yeah.
And then la pièce de résistance, the dolphins. Oh my gosh, we have different pods of dolphins that live in the Golfo Dulce. Golfo Dulce means the sweet Gulf, and it's a gulf that can go down over 1,000 feet. And in there, we have bottlenose dolphins. We have pan-tropical spot dolphins. We even have, whale sharks that come in there, usually in March. We have humpback whales that come. Normally, it's in January or June. So you may be lucky to see a humpback whale. We don't know, but you're pretty much guaranteed to see dolphins. So, and usually we're the only boat on the water. And you're actually going to be supporting a friend of ours. Her name is Phoebe. She is one of the research specialists in the area. She does a lot of research and a lot of conservation work. And so you're going to be you're going to be supporting her in her endeavors, really. And so you'll get to meet her and you're going to learn about all of these incredible, marine wildlife in the Gulf. It's incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So much to see.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, when all is said and done, a flight back to San Jose and then onwards home. So, thank you, Martine. I think you've really captured the essence of what this Costa Rica Eco Adventure is all about. We really only had amazing reviews about this trip, so I'm sure your experience will be equal to that, if not better. So, if there are any other questions that have come in, and I haven't seen any yet, but sometimes we have to coax a little bit. Um, by all means, you can ask questions later. It's not like you can't ever ask a question. We encourage you to ask questions because we want you to be totally prepared for the trip. Then on the next slide, I'll show you. You can just drop a note. You can drop a note to, frankly, anybody who you've been dealing with, Paula or Melody or Aura, to get your questions answered. But we must have done a good job and we must have covered everything off. What were the questions from the last webinar? We had a question about the group size is 18. So you're
Yeah.
gonna have 18 people in the group. So it's perfect. Because you've got not only Martine, but you've got Jason, and you've got the whole all of the folks that she works with. Um, that you'll meet there. Okay, so I see a couple questions came in. Who do you send health insurance info to? You can just send it into Aura or Melody, whoever you were last dealing with. Typically, Aura is the one who administers all of that stuff, and she'll make sure that all that gets sent over to Martine. So that would be great. Brian asked about if any of the hotels have ATMs. I think they do not.
No, the hotels don't, but you will have access to them. For example, when we get to the Osa, there's Puerto Jimenez, there's two banks there. You can get cash out there. I generally think that, especially if you're coming in earlier, you're doing many things in San Jose, there's lots of different banks and opportunities. And in fact, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Hilton does have a cash machine. So your first hotel will, but
The
all
first one, yeah.
the small hotels, the small eco lodges don't. And again, if ever you are in need for cash and you're stuck, I will help you. Of course, I'm your jungle mama. I will help you. But essentially, just bring at least 200, 250 US dollars in small bills, like I mentioned, and then have your credit card to pay anything at those lodges is going to be fine. And then worst comes to worst, Puerto Jimenez, we can stop and get some cash there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, exactly. If you follow those guidelines from Martine, then you're going to be in good hands. Okay, good.
I will add, make sure you bring
Please.
water for your first hotel. They
Yes.
should have bottled water in your hotel rooms, but I'm always worried that they forget, and then you get there and they don't have water. But I know, just make sure you have water because I don't want anyone to drink any water from San Jose. It is potable water. They will tell you it's perfectly fine to drink, and it is, but we're not used to the same water that they are.
Yeah.
The minerals are different, and I don't want you to start your trip not feeling good. Okay, so the best is like don't brush your teeth with the water in San Jose. Once you get into the hotels like in Savegre and all that, they have also extra filtered water. And even in the Hilton do have a station where you can refill your bottles. Just know I want you to make sure that you just don't drink the San Jose water, just to be sure, just to be preventative. After
Yeah.
the water they have in the hotels is often better than what we have in our bottles. So, it's really good after that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. A couple other questions popped in. How many people in the group? But once again, 18. You've got 18 members in your group. So that's again the optimal size for this trip.
Yeah.
And then a question about small merchants markets taking wise. Well, they I think yeah, there's 18 in both groups, if I'm not mistaken. Martine, is it the first
Yeah,
and the second group? Yeah.
yeah, correct.
um, so
Comes back is
yeah,
they take
this
wise. They can if they have the ability to take a credit card, they can. But if they don't, you have to pay cash, and that's when if you're paying in US, they won't give you the best exchange rate, which is why in little markets it's nice to have colones. Otherwise, US fully accepted everywhere.
what I do
Mhm.
is like my not just in Costa Rica, which but anywhere is you go in with a larger bill to a 7-Eleven and you buy a bottle of water, and
Yeah,
then you get a bunch of change.
yeah,
And then maybe do that twice or something, and then you have a bunch of local change
yeah,
that you can use for all these small purchases. You're always gonna if you're looking at picking up souvenirs or whatever local trinkets or art, you're always going to get a better rate dealing in cash than with a credit card because they've got to pay the bank fees and the whole nine yards. So, For that kind of stuff, make sure you get some cash.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Good. I think we answered all the questions. Last call. But again, as I said, if you have a question, you have options. Drop a note to Melody, or as I said, whoever you are working with last on our team, or just shoot a note to Martine. Martine, you put your um, Telegram handle at the very beginning into the chat, so it's there. So please make sure you get your questions answered. That's what we're here for. We want to make sure that you're super well prepared for this amazing experience. And on that note, we're at the end.
Merry
So
Christmas. Happy
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever holiday that you might
Yeah,
celebrate.
exactly.
Have a great season and have most of all a great trip to Costa Rica with Martine. I'm sure we always get
Have
rave
a good
reviews on this trip. So this is this one, well, all of our trips, but if I'm not too biased, but yeah, you'll have a marvelous time, and I will be channeling your energy down there in beautiful Costa Rica, and
Yeah.
look forward to hearing your feedback on this trip. So take care, everybody. Thank you again, Martine, for supporting me in my froggy voice today.
You
And
did well. You managed to get through the
I
both
man I
screens.
managed to get through 2 webinars today.
Now
Um,
have some chicken noodle soup and go to sleep. Okay.
yeah, that would be about the plan. Yeah, exactly. All right, thanks everybody. Again, have a great holiday, and we'll see y'all soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.